Sometimes, evil doesn't lurk in graveyards or ancient ruins. Sometimes, it hides in plain sight. In a house. On an ordinary street. In an ordinary town. But what lives inside, is anything but ordinary. This is the horrifying true story of the Snedeker House. A case so disturbing, so twisted, that it left even Ed and Lorraine Warren shaken. A case born in sorrow, and nearly consumed an entire family in pure darkness. It all started in 1986, in Southington, Connecticut. Carmen and Al Snedeker were a working-class couple with 4 children, struggling to keep life together as their eldest son, Philip, battled Hodgkin's lymphoma. His treatments at the Yukon Medical Center were long and grueling, and the long-distance travel from their home in upstate New York was taking a brutal toll on the family. They needed a solution. Fast. That's when they stumbled across a large colonial-style duplex for rent near the hospital. It was affordable, spacious, and available immediately. To Carmen, it felt like a miracle. They signed the lease and moved in without hesitation. But almost from the first day, something felt off. The atmosphere was heavy, like the air itself carried secrets. The basement, where Philip would stay due to its proximity to a bathroom and privacy, was especially disturbing. There were strange items still present, metal tables, gurneys, a dumbwaiter, and other unsettling tools. Carmen assumed they were just leftovers from a previous tenant. Until she asked the landlord. That's when the truth was revealed. The house had once been a funeral home. And not just any funeral home, it was the Hallahan Funeral Home. For decades, the dead had been prepared for burial right there, in the same rooms where her children now slept. The embalming room? That was now Philip's bedroom. Still, Carmen tried to brush it off. After all, the house was cheap. They had no other options. And she didn't want to alarm the children or distract from Philip's critical health condition. But the house had other plans. Philip began seeing shadows in the corners of the room. At first, he thought it was the chemotherapy playing tricks on his eyes. But then, the shadows started moving. He claimed to see figures walking through walls, whispering in languages he couldn't understand. And he wasn't alone. Carmen began to find light bulbs unscrewed. Crucifixes would disappear, only to be discovered days later, twisted or broken. Cold spots moved through the house like something breathing icy wind through closed doors. Al Snedeker, a skeptic, dismissed it all. He believed the stress of illness and relocation was taking its toll on the family's minds. But then, he saw it too. A dark mass, like a shadow with weight, hovering near the basement stairs. Soon, Carmen and Al began hearing guttural voices at night. The children cried, complaining of being touched, even scratched by invisible hands. One night, their niece, who was staying with them, claimed she was held down by an unseen force, unable to scream, unable to move. Even worse, Philip's behavior was spiraling. He became aggressive. He spoke of necrophilia and murder, topics no teenage boy should be obsessed with, especially one from a religious, sheltered home. He painted disturbing images and journaled about spirits urging him to harm others. Eventually, the Snedekers had no choice but to hospitalize Philip for psychiatric care. And that's when Carmen reached out for help. Enter Ed and Lorraine Warren, 2 of the most respected names in paranormal investigation. When they arrived, Lorraine, gifted with clairvoyance, immediately sensed overwhelming energy. She described the home as a gateway for the dead. Not just haunted, but corrupted. According to the Warrens, the past activities in the funeral home had opened a door to something sinister. Lorraine claimed that during their research, they discovered the morticians who once worked in the home had not just prepared the dead, but had desecrated them. Rumors of necromantic rituals. Allegations of black magic. Whispers of things, far worse. These acts, the Warrens believed, had attracted demonic entities, which now fed on the pain and trauma of the living. Carmen confirmed that the most terrifying moments always centered around her son's old room, the embalming chamber. The perfect place, the Warrens said, for a demon to settle. Cold. Isolated. Once home to death. And now, a breeding ground for evil. The Warrens began their spiritual battle. Lorraine conducted psychic sweeps of the home. She saw spirits, hundreds of them, trapped, confused, moaning in despair. But one stood out. An inhuman entity. One that growled. One that hated. Ed used religious provocation, reading scripture, sprinkling holy water, confronting the entity. And it fought back. Objects flew across rooms. Carmen was pulled by her ankles down the hallway. Al claimed to see the demon's face in the bathroom mirror, distorted, grotesque, and grinning. Their niece was attacked while sleeping, held down and scratched. But the most horrifying moment came when Philip returned for a brief visit. That night, he was possessed. His voice dropped, muttering in Latin. He recited names and dates he shouldn't have known. He spoke of corpses, ones he had prepared. The family watched in terror as their son raged, crying out blasphemies, until he collapsed in exhaustion. Ed and Lorraine called for a Catholic exorcist. A priest arrived days later, and the home was finally cleansed through a formal exorcism. The ritual lasted hours, involving holy water, prayer, and repeated confrontation with the entity. According to the Warrens, it worked. The demonic presence was expelled. The air lightened. The haunting ceased. But the damage was already done. The Snedekers never fully recovered. Philip's mental health was permanently scarred. Though he eventually recovered from cancer, the trauma of the house remained with him for years. Carmen became an advocate for the dangers of the paranormal, speaking publicly about their experience. But skeptics were quick to pounce. One co-author of their book claimed that much of the story was exaggerated to sell the tale. But Carmen has stood by every word. As for the house, it still stands today. A normal-looking home on a quiet street. Occupied. Lived in. Some say nothing strange happens there anymore. Others whisper, the evil never truly left. This was not just a haunting. It was an infestation. A spiritual siege. A collision between the living and the damned. And one of Ed and Lorraine Warren's darkest cases to date. So the next time you walk into a house with a history, ask yourself, do you know what was done behind those walls? Because sometimes, the dead don't rest. And the darkness doesn't forget.